A courtroom in Fort Worth, Texas falls silent as the judge says that one word. Tanner Horner does not react. No tears. No expression. Nothing. Not even when the room behind him begins to break apart. And maybe that is what disturbed people the most. Because this case was different. The jury did not need days to decide. It took less than 3 hours. After 19 days of testimony, after hearing what was recorded inside his delivery van, after listening to a 7-year-old little girl beg to go home, the jury decided Tanner Horner should die. He was sentenced to execution by lethal injection. But no execution date has been set. And that is the part that still unsettles people. What 12 jurors decided in less than 3 hours, the legal system could take decades to carry out. It all began on November 30th, 2022. 7-year-old Athena Strand disappeared from her home in the middle of the afternoon. At first, nobody understood what happened. Then 2 days later, her body was discovered in a wooded area near Boyd, Texas. She had been strangled. Investigators quickly traced the last delivery made to her home that day. The driver's name was Tanner Horner, and when police questioned him, he already had a story prepared. He told investigators it was an accident, but the footage inside his van would tell a completely different story. Lie upon lie upon lie upon lie. That is how the district attorney described Tanner Horner's story. When investigators first questioned him, Horner claimed Athena's death was an accident. He said he accidentally struck her with his van while backing out of the driveway. According to him, she did not appear seriously hurt. But then he panicked, afraid of losing his job and afraid of going to prison. So instead of calling for help, he placed 7-year-old Athena inside the van. Then he told investigators something even more disturbing. He said he tried to break her neck, and when that failed, he strangled her with his hands. Later, Horner claimed the entire thing felt like a dream, like he was watching himself from somewhere else. But investigators quickly noticed a problem. Every time they challenged his story, the details changed. Different timelines, different explanations, different versions of what happened inside that van. And then detectives reviewed the footage. That is when Tanner Horner's story completely fell apart. Footage from inside the van showed Athena Strand alive, uninjured, and standing as Tanner Horner pulled her into the vehicle and drove away. She had not been hit by the van. She had been taken. As he drove, Athena asked him a question. "Are you a kidnapper?" Horner immediately reached upward and covered the camera. But he forgot something else was still recording. The microphone. At first, Horner sounded calm, almost casual. He asked Athena how old she was, what school she attended, who her teacher was. Then his tone changed. The van stopped moving. Horner told her they were going to hang out. He told her she was pretty. Then he instructed a 7-year-old little girl to remove her shirt, but Athena refused. "My mom says I can't do that," she told him. "And you can't do that to me either." She asked him why. His response was simple. "Because you're pretty." Soon, Athena began crying. She asked for her mother. She begged to go home. Then Horner's voice changed again. "If you don't shut up, I'll hurt you worse." When prosecutors played it inside that Fort Worth courtroom, several jurors broke down in tears. Some could not look at the screen. Even Tanner Horner looked away. And near the end of the recording, as Athena Strand was being strangled, a Christmas song played softly through the van speakers. Tanner Horner sang along to it after Athena Strand was dead. Tanner Horner disposed of her body in the woods near Boyd, Texas. Then he went back to work. He completed the rest of his delivery route. That night, while search parties formed across Paradise, while helicopters circled overhead, while Athena's family desperately searched for answers, Tanner Horner was at home. The next morning, he opened his phone. He searched for Athena's missing posters. He searched Paradise Missing Girl. Then another search appeared. Do FedEx truck cameras constantly record? No grief. No remorse. He wanted to know what the van had captured. What investigators might already have. Whether the camera had seen him. The answer was yes. Here is something that changed how prosecutors viewed this entire case. They told the jury this was not panic. Not a terrible accident followed by fear. Because the dashcam footage destroyed that explanation almost immediately. Athena Strand was not struck by the van. She was standing beside it, alive, uninjured, and then Tanner Horner pulled her inside. To prosecutors, that detail changed everything. The district attorney told the jury directly, "This may have been planned." And then, during his own interrogation, Tanner Horner revealed something that made that possibility even more disturbing. During interrogations, Tanner Horner began talking about someone else. He called him Zero. Investigators said the shift was immediate. Texas Ranger Sergeant Job Espinoza later described watching Horner's posture change right in front of them. His head leaned sideways. His eyes drifted upward. Even his voice sounded different. And then Horner said something chilling. "It wasn't me. It was Zero, the one who killed Athena Strand." That he himself was only watching from the back seat. At times, Horner even sounded afraid of this other version of himself. "If I say too much, Zero is going to hurt me." Zero says this is a trap, but investigators were not convinced. At one point inside the jail, Horner tried bargaining with detectives. He asked to be released for a month so he could spend Christmas with his family. In return, he promised he would tell them more. They refused. And then the investigation took an even stranger turn. For hours, Horner kept leading police to the wrong places. Search teams could not find Athena's body until investigators changed tactics. Instead of speaking to Tanner Horner, they started speaking to Zero. According to testimony, the personality Horner described finally directed investigators to the wooded area near Boyd, Texas, where Athena Strand's body had been left. That detail became one of the most disturbing moments of the trial. But prosecutors argued there was nothing supernatural happening inside that interrogation room. At trial, forensic psychologists testified that Zero did not appear to be a genuine alternate personality. One expert said the identity seemed to have been created after the murder, a way to distance himself from what he had done. Another testified there was no evidence of dissociative identity disorder, no split personality, no loss of reality. Their conclusion was simple. Tanner Horner knew exactly what happened inside that van. He just did not want the responsibility attached to his own name. April 7, 2026. The trial was supposed to begin that morning. Athena Strand's family sat inside the courtroom waiting to finally hear the case laid out in full. Reporters filled the gallery. Cameras waited outside. Everyone expected a long and brutal trial. Then Tanner Horner stood up. Before opening statements, before the first witness, before prosecutors could even begin presenting evidence, he pleaded guilty. Capital murder, aggravated kidnapping. No deal, no negotiation, just guilty. But the trial did not stop. Because in Texas, the jury still had to decide one thing. Should Tanner Horner spend the rest of his life in prison, or should he die for what he did to Athena Strand? So for 19 days, jurors listened to everything. They heard the recordings from inside the van. They watched the footage. They listened to Athena's mother, Maitland Gandy, describe the final moments before her daughter disappeared. That Friday was supposed to be simple. Christmas lights, family time, a normal evening. A promise Athena never got the chance to keep. And then the sentencing phase took another turn. Into that courtroom and testified under oath that Tanner Horner had sexually assaulted them when they were 16 years old. Separate accusations, separate incidents. At the time, Horner was already in his 20s. When he was first arrested, investigators said he had no criminal record. But now the jury was hearing something very different. Not a single horrifying act. Not one sudden moment of violence. But allegations of behavior that, according to prosecutors, stretched back years before Athena Strand was ever killed. The defense had one final argument. Don't sentence Tanner Horner to death. His attorneys told jurors his life had been broken long before Athena Strand was killed. They said his mother abused drugs and alcohol while pregnant with him, that she herself had endured abuse as a child, that Horner grew up surrounded by instability. Jurors heard about lead exposure, autism, ADHD, bipolar disorder, major depressive disorder. One psychiatry professor described him as severely compromised. But under cross-examination, the same expert admitted something critical. Tanner Horner still knew right from wrong. In closing arguments, his attorney stood before the jury and made one final plea. Tanner's problems began before he was even born. She asked them for mercy. Then the jury left the courtroom. 19 days of testimony, more than an hour of recordings. Crime scene evidence, psychologists, victim impact statements. The jury deliberated for 2 hours and 30 minutes. 2 hours, 30 minutes. The verdict was read. May 5, 2026. Death. Unanimous. No mitigating circumstances. A continuing danger to society. But Tanner Horner did not flinch. No reaction. No expression at all. Before the verdict was read, Athena Strand's uncle, Elijah Strand, stood. He faced Horner directly. He spoke slowly, deliberately. There are no words that can truly capture the devastation you caused us. Athena was laughter, curiosity, kindness, innocence. She had dreams she will never get to chase, birthdays she will never celebrate, a life she will never get to live because of you. He paused, then looked directly at Horner. You are a footnote in Athena's story. Her name will forever be remembered. Her name will forever be celebrated. And you will be forgotten. Tanner Horner is on death row at the Allan B. Polunsky unit in Texas. Tonight, he is inside a cell barely larger than a parking space. Concrete walls, steel door, a thin mattress, a stainless steel toilet. 23 hours alone. Under Texas law, his execution cannot happen immediately. The appeals begin automatically. State court, federal court, possibly the Supreme Court. Years of motions, years of hearings, years of waiting. He was sentenced to death on May 5, 2026. He is alive today. He may still be alive 10 years from now, maybe longer. And that is the part that unsettles people. Because for Athena Strand, time stopped at 7 years old. One ordinary afternoon, folding laundry, standing in her own driveway. Then a delivery van pulled in, and nothing after that was ever normal again. 12 jurors heard the recordings, saw the footage, listened to a child beg to go home. It took them less than 3 hours to decide Tanner Horner should die. The legal system may spend the next 20 years deciding whether it will actually happen. So tonight, somewhere in Texas, there is a man sitting alone in a concrete cell waiting for a date that may not come for decades. And somewhere else, a little girl's bedroom is still empty. There was a sentence, there was a verdict, but there was never going to be closure.